Apache woman with 3 children, can we warm ourselves? The cowboy's response changed everything. The winter wind howled across the empty plains like a wounded animal, slicing through the darkness and rattling the loose boards of Jack Mercer's small frontier cabin, a lonely structure standing miles from the nearest town, surrounded by endless snow and silence, and inside, Jack sat by the fire with a cup of black coffee in his rough hands, his face weathered by years of hard labor, broken dreams, and the kind of loneliness that settles deep into a man's bones, the kind that doesn't leave, not even when the fire burns bright. And just as he was about to pour another cup, a soft knock echoed through the cabin, so faint he almost thought it was the wind, but then it came again, 3 gentle taps, hesitant, desperate, and Jack froze, because no one ever came this far into the wilderness during a storm, not unless they were lost, broken, or running from something. So he grabbed his coat, opened the door, and standing there in the swirling snow was an Apache woman, her dark hair dusted white, her thin blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders, and beside her stood 3 small children, shivering, barefoot, their faces pale with cold and fear, and with a voice barely louder than the wind, the woman said, "Please, sir, can we warm ourselves?" And Jack's heart tightened, because the world had taught him to be cautious, to protect what little he had, but something in her eyes, pride mixed with desperation, stopped him from turning them away, so he stepped aside and said, "Come in," and the children rushed toward the fire like moths to light, holding their frozen hands out, whispering in their native tongue, while the woman stood near the door, unsure if she truly belonged there, until Jack handed her a cup of coffee and a blanket, and for the first time in hours, her shoulders relaxed, and as the warmth filled the room, Jack learned their story, how her name was Naya, how her husband had been killed in a raid, how soldiers had burned their village, how winter had stolen everything they owned, and how she had walked for days through the snow with her children, guided only by hope and the distant glow of this cabin's light. And Jack listened in silence, because he knew what loss felt like. He had buried his own wife years ago, watched sickness take her slowly, leaving him alone in a world that felt colder than any winter storm, and as the children slept near the fire, their small bodies finally still, Jack made a choice that would change all their lives. He offered them food, a place to rest, and protection from the storm, but what he didn't realize was that this single act of kindness was about to challenge everything he believed about trust, family, and the meaning of home, because outside that cabin, danger was moving, and the past was never truly buried. And as the fire cracked and the wind screamed, Jack stared into the flames, unaware that this night would mark the beginning of the most powerful chapter of his life. And if you want to discover how this simple knock in the snow turns into a life-changing journey of courage, sacrifice, morning came slowly, pale sunlight spilling across the frozen plains, and when Jack opened his eyes, the cabin felt different, warmer, alive, filled with the quiet breathing of children and the soft crackle of dying embers. And for the first time in years, he wasn't waking up alone, because Naya sat near the window, watching the horizon, her posture alert, protective, like a wolf guarding her young. And when she noticed Jack awake, she offered a small, grateful smile, one that carried both strength and sorrow. And Jack cleared his throat, suddenly unsure of himself, but before he could speak, the sound of distant hoofbeats cut through the silence, sharp and threatening, and Naya's face went pale, because she knew that sound, soldiers, and panic rippled through the cabin as the children clung to her, their eyes wide with fear. And Jack didn't hesitate. He grabbed his rifle, told them to hide behind the floorboards, and stood in front of his door like a man who had finally found something worth protecting. And when the soldiers arrived, demanding to search his land, accusing him of hiding Apache survivors, Jack met their eyes without fear and said, "This is my property. You've got no business here." And after tense moments that felt like hours, the soldiers rode away, leaving nothing but silence and shaken nerves behind. And when the danger passed, Naya collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face, because no one had ever risked their life for her family before. And Jack helped her up, saying quietly, "You're safe here." And those words meant more than shelter, more than food, they meant belonging. And as days turned into weeks, the cabin transformed into a home, laughter replacing silence, tiny footsteps filling the floor, Naya cooking over the fire, Jack teaching the children how to fish, how to read the stars, how to survive. And slowly, without realizing it, the empty spaces in Jack's heart began to heal, not with romance, not with promises, but with purpose, because he wasn't just a lonely cowboy anymore, he was a protector, a teacher, a father figure, and Naya, who had lost everything, found strength in this unexpected family, not because the world had changed, but because someone had chosen kindness over fear. And one evening, as the sun set in golden silence, Naya stood beside Jack and said, "You didn't just save us from the cold, you saved our future." And Jack looked at the children playing in the snow and realized something powerful. Sometimes the family you're meant to have doesn't come from blood, but from bravery, and the simple decision to open a door when the world tells you to close it. And if this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you of the power of compassion, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable stories that prove even the smallest act of kindness can change everything.